All right, everybody. Well, I'm here by myself, and this is a very difficult podcast to do on my own right now. Really wish Will were here. Alex, the intern, is in the chat. He already has dropped to me. Not gonna lie, Greg, I don't know how you can do this pod. I would not want to talk about the Celtics after that performance. Celtics lose in overtime. First time they lose to the New York Knicks this season. 108, 105. I'm going to do my very best to make it through 30 minutes. I'm not even going to pretend like I'm going to try and stay positive after a game like this. This was an embarrassment by the Boston Celtics in the second half. They completely blew the game. They blew a 20-point lead, in case you somehow missed that. But yeah, I'm going to try and talk through it. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through the box score since it's solo. There's, kind of only so much I can do on my own. If you have any thoughts, this is as a solo pod right now. Any comments that you can put in the chat, any questions, I'll try to make this as interactive as possible here. So give me a second here just to get set up. We're going to go ahead and play the intro because I need a second to kind of gather my thoughts here. Holy shit. You know the deal. Let's lock in. What's good, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Green with Envy. Trying to feign some sort of enthusiasm right now. I got here pulled up. Actually, let me just adjust this really quickly because I don't really like what that looks like. We're going to go ahead and we are going to stop that share and present this instead. Entire window. Boom. That might look a little better. There we go. All right. So Boston Celtics tonight blow a 20-point third quarter lead against the New York Knicks and put up some of the most embarrassing shot selection I think I've ever seen out of a team that can get very 3-point happy. I don't know what the hell they were thinking in that third quarter and in the second half. I'm going to try and pull up just their second half game chart here. Let's see. Boston Celtics. We're going to go to second half. Shot plot. I don't know if you notice anything here, but what I see on this side of the screen is that the Celtics shot a shit ton of 3-pointers here in the second half. It looks like they shot a total of 5, 6, 7 baskets that were 2-pointers in the second half, and everything else was a 3-pointer. I don't know what the hell Jason Tatum was doing in the fourth quarter there. That was one of the most pathetic Jason Tatum performances I think I've ever seen. The amount of times he could have driven to the basket with a weak defender on him and instead settled for the dreaded step back three that Celtics fans have been complaining about for the past 5 years. It was just awful to see out of Jason Tatum tonight. We got a comment here. Cool Genuine Phil says bad loss, got to regroup, must win game 2. Couldn't agree more. Will, shout out to Will. Not enough step back threes in my opinion. Yeah. Pretty bad. Let's go to the box score here so we can just try and have some sort of conversation about this game. You know what? I'm going to start with the Knicks because I think the Knicks deserve credit in this game. They didn't give up. Karl-Anthony Towns did about as bad a job as you can do on a basketball court for a majority of the game. Had a huge tip at the end of the game to put the Knicks back up 108, 102. He was pathetic in this game. But OG Anunoby, man, OG's stats, 46 minutes, 10 for 20 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3. Great defense on Jason Tatum anytime he was covering him. Josh Hart, 45 minutes, 5 for 9. He had, 5 offensive rebounds, 11 rebounds. And every rebound Josh Hart gets is loud. Everything he does on the court is additive. He's one of those guys. And I said this on the preview pod to our guy Liptak. I said, I'm more scared about the Josh Hart rebound than I am about the Josh Hart rebound that leads to the Cat 3. You know what I mean? Like Cat's 3-pointers, any OG Anunoby 3-pointer, it's the rebound from Josh Hart that always scares me And shout out to him. He played a great game. As I mentioned, Towns was bad. I've been hard on Mikal Bridges all season, but the guy's an Iron Man, 51 minutes, and he was awesome in overtime. His defense in overtime, was one of the difference makers in the game. I think he had 2 steals and a block, or 2 blocks and a steal in that overtime. He goes 51 minutes, only 3 of 13, but everything that he did on the court, 3 steals, 2 blocks total out of Mikal Bridges. Got to give him credit for sticking with it. These playoff games can be ugly. And then Jalen Brunson, man, didn't close the game on that final shot with a teardrop that he should have hit. But the Celtics didn't deserve to win this game. Like, if it had ended on that Brunson teardrop, I almost would have preferred it to losing in overtime, because the Celtics just did not deserve to win this basketball game the way that they played there in the second half. Brunson goes 9 for 23, 5 for 9 from 3, bunch of big buckets in the fourth quarter. Wasn't even getting the calls. He was 6 for 7 from the line. He was doing everything he could to get calls from the refs, and they weren't falling for it. So if you're a Celtics fan, you can't even complain about the referees in this one. I don't think the refs had anything to do with this game, because the Boston Celtics decided, hey, it's the second half. We're just going to be so happy we're not playing against the Orlando Magic, who took away 3-pointers, that we are going to shoot a grand total of 63 pointers in this game. 63 pointers. They're 15 for 60. They set the record for the most 3-pointers missed in a playoff game at 45 3-pointers. Let's go through some of the stats for the Celtics. Jaylen Brown, 7 for 20, 1 for 10 from 3. A lot of those threes were open, but kind of threes that were like, hey, you're open for a reason type of shots out of Jaylen Brown. Hit one big shot to try and will the Celtics back, but it wasn't enough. 8 for 10 from the line, still positive there from JB, continuing to knock down his free throws. He ends up with 23 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Jason Tatum goes 44 minutes, 7 for 23 from the field, 4 for 15 from 3, only 5 of 7 from the line, in a game in which it felt like he could have gotten to the line whenever he wanted. He did end up with 23 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 turnovers out of JT, but wasn't the best player on the court tonight. I don't even think he was the second best player on the court tonight. Might not even have been the third best player on the court tonight. We can be harsh on Tatum. We can be harsh on Tatum, everybody. It's okay. You don't have to, bow at the altar of Jason Tatum, even when he has a bad game. He had a bad game, and I think he would be the first one to tell you that he didn't play well. So I think, as a podcaster, we also have to be honest when a guy doesn't play well. This is why game 1, I said coming into this series, I thought Brunson was the better closer than Tatum, and he proved it in this game. And I did my very best to not clap back at people on TikTok that were calling me crazy for saying that Tatum wasn't as good of a closer as Brunson. It's just like, do you trust Jason Tatum shooting step back threes in crunch time, or do you trust Jalen Brunson getting to his spot or forcing a double team? Like, I don't know. Tatum just didn't play well tonight. Big news out of this one. Kristaps Porzingis only plays 13 minutes, no points, 4 rebounds, does not play in the second half of this game. I don't even think he played much in the second quarter of this game. All the reports are he's going to be okay, but it's an illness, which is always scary. Steve on the East Coast, he says, thanks for the tip, Steve. Appreciate you. $2 tip out of my guy, Steve. Hey, guys, I'm doing this by myself tonight, so any tips you could send my way would be much appreciated. Steve says, any needless step back threes tonight? Man, if I had a $2 tip for every needless step back 3 tonight, Steve, I could probably buy my fiance some well-deserved dinner for Mother's Day this weekend, right? It's just like, what were we doing in the second half there? It was absolutely pathetic. Alex, I know that you're kind of watching from work right now. I don't know if you can actually look up how many 3-pointers the Celtics took in the second half of this game. That would be appreciated if you're able to do that. Just really tough, really tough. Yeah, I just didn't understand what was happening. Derek White, who's normally nails, was, I don't know, bent nails. Like, what was he? Tax? He wasn't holding anything together for the Celtics for the most part tonight. 6 for 18 from D. White, 5 for 16 from 3. He did have 11 rebounds and 2 blocks, but not the Derek White game that we needed. He had a couple of huge moments. I'm not going to say D White wasn't, D White in moments. That rebound at the end of the game was one of the biggest rebounds of the game. That's why you love Derek White going up in traffic, coming down with that, putting his body on the line. But he was very frustrated because he was missing a lot of open threes in this one. He did hit a couple, I think, in the third quarter when him and OG exchanged threes back to back. But he didn't play well. I thought Drew, arguably, I don't know what people in the chat think, but I thought Drew may have been like the best Celtic on the floor, not because he was amazing, but because nobody else played up to their standard. Um, 39 minutes out of Drew, positive that he's healthy, that the hamstring wasn't an issue. Thought he did a really good job making Brunson work. Obviously, the Knicks decided they're going to attack Al Horford and get Drew Holiday off of Brunson. I would love to see the stats on Brunson actually matched up against Drew. Did get back cut on that last play where Brunson missed the teardrop, but I was very happy what I saw out of Drew. He had some timely buckets, 7 for 14 from the field for him, 2 for 7 from 3, but he had a couple big ones. 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. And then when you get to the bench, man, I mean, Al Horford continuing to do Al Horford things, 34 minutes, more important than Kristaps Porzingis. Like, Porzingis just can't stay healthy. I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that I don't know that we're going to get like the ideal Kristaps Porzingis performance like we got in the first half of game 1 against the Mavs last year. He hasn't looked good in these playoffs, and Horford, we're just continuing to rely on him to go out there and be our center. And Horford's doing everything that he can, but to expect him to be able to hold up for 35 minutes a night in the playoffs, guarding Jalen Brunson type players out in the perimeter, it's too much to ask out of this guy. Where we've done what we can do with Al Horford at the 5, and we need Kristaps Porzingis to step up, and hopefully he does. Hopefully that illness doesn't keep him out too long. I thought Pritchard, I thought he was good. Maybe Pritchard, like pound for pound, was the played most up to his standard tonight. I don't know why Missoula went so far away from Pritchard in the second half there. He only goes 24 minutes out of Pritchard tonight. Will says 7 total 2-point shots in the second half, went 12 for 15 in the first half. Let's see. Alex, he says 12 missed in the third, 13 missed in the fourth, 25 missed threes, 9 makes. Yeah, man, those are just some depressing numbers there. Luke Cornett had some moments, I guess. He had a nice block on OG at the rim at one point, had some good fouls on Mitchell Robinson, but Luke has not played up to his standard that he set for himself in the regular season in this one either. And then Sam Hauser gets hurt, so I don't want to be harsh on Sam Hauser. Hasn't been good in these playoffs. He's a guy that's definitely playing himself out of meaningful basketball here in these playoffs. All right, we're 13 minutes in here. I've done my initial reaction. I would love to kind of just go back and, go chronologically through this game to the best of my ability. Alex, anybody in the chat, if you guys have questions that you want answered, Will, I know that you were there. If you have questions you want answered, I'd love to have some sort of back and forth here with the people, because it is definitely tough to do these solo pods. Let's see. Let me go to my notes here, because I did take a few notes. Give me a second to pull these bad boys up. I'm going to stop my share for a second so you guys don't see where the magic sauce is created. All right. So in the first half, one of the things that I was just interested in thinking about was how the Celtics were going to guard Jalen Brunson. And I thought the Celtics actually did a pretty good job guarding Brunson throughout this game. I thought he got loose in the fourth quarter a little bit when on some broken plays. I think the Knicks did a good job kind of creating their own luck, just getting hands on loose balls and things like that. That 1-3 where it was like a loose ball off an offensive rebound and there's a miscommunication. Brunson ends up with an open corner 3 off a broken play. That kind of got him going there. But early in this one, it seemed like the Celtics, and they've done this to Brunson the whole season. What they want to do with him is just kind of have people in gaps. And anytime Jalen Brunson is coming off a pick and roll, we're pretty, almost in a zone to some degree, but we're playing those gaps very heavily, forcing him to make passes out to the corners. And OG Anunoby, to my point earlier, was just absolutely money from the corner tonight. But I thought the Celtics came out with a really good game plan in this one, and the Knicks decided early in this one that they were going to push the tempo. They did a lot of dribble handoff grenade actions with Josh Hart kind of in that Draymond Green type space where he would be, standing around just inside the 3-point line with a lot of people cutting off of him. The DHO grenade basically is when somebody starts kind of more towards the baseline and dribbles up into a dribble handoff so that the dribble handoff is having somebody go towards the basket. So I thought they came out, did a good job there. But honestly, in this one, I just felt like the Celtics were the better team in the first half, and I didn't think that the Knicks really had much for us. I was texting our guy Liptak that was on the preview pod, and I said, this feels like a game that the Celtics win by 15 or 20 points. And I probably should have amended that to say this feels like a game the Celtics are going to be up by 15 to 20 at halftime. They were up 16 at halftime, 61 to 45. And they were just, doing normal basketball things where they weren't just hunting 3-pointers in the first half. They were going to the basket. Will, he had something in the private chat for me. They were, let's see, I think he had something in the private chat, but maybe it was 12 for 15 in the first half. That's what he said. The Celtics were 12 for 15 in the first half on 2-point shots, and they shoot 7 total 2-point shots in the second half. Let's just let that sink in. The Celtics were 12 for 15 in the first half on 2-point shots, and they shot 7 total 2-point shots in the second half. I don't know what they saw that said just jack 3-pointers. I don't know if every single one of them was just trying to go for the nail in the coffin type 3-pointer, but there were far too many of them. And the fact that Jason Tatum decided to shoot multiple step back threes in the final 2 minutes of this game just drove me crazy, man. Jalen, although he didn't, play great in this one, he at least was trying to go to the basket. He's one of the few guys that was actually looking inside. When the Celtics shot seemingly 25 3-pointers in a row in the fourth quarter, he had that one drive to his right hand on the baseline that he got fouled on by Josh Hart or Deuce McBride, one of the two. Then he was the one that found Drew Holiday for the layup by the basket. And there's just so many moments where it seemed like the middle of the paint was just wide open. And I don't understand why the Celtics decided to shoot 63 pointers in this game tonight, other than what I've already said. They were so excited that the team was allowing them and almost encouraging them to shoot 3-pointers in this one that they just took the bait and decided to shoot. And they shot themselves out of a 20-point lead. And for a Knicks team that does not have the talent the Boston Celtics have, does not have the depth the Boston Celtics have, their one chance of hanging in the series and upsetting the Celtics was to win game 1 tonight. And it did not feel like through the first half of this game that the Knicks had any chance in hell in winning this game. Halfway through the third quarter, it's a 20-point lead. Karl-Anthony Towns literally takes a shit on the court, just a big, steamy pile of shit on the court where he's turning the ball over, he's fouling people, he's driving unnecessarily, he's scared to create contact because he's scared he's going to get an offensive foul. And then the one time he does decide to engage in the post against Drew Holiday, he gets an offensive foul. Thibodeau leaves him out there on the court for a second. And then he, I think Towns once again turned the ball over or something. That's when Tibbs calls a timeout. Celtics up 20, and they pull Towns from the game. And from that moment forward, the Knicks found a rhythm. Mitchell Robinson was better than Towns was in this game, even though he was, they went to Hack-a-Mitch. His defensive presence is at least a presence. And I will give Towns this. He actually moved his feet pretty well there in the second half. He was guarding Jaylen Brown. Jaylen couldn't get by him. There were a few times Tatum had him in switches and Tatum was unable to do anything with him. So I will give Towns some credit, but the game really turned when Towns was on the bench in this one. And It's a little concerning if you're a Knicks fan and a Celtics fan, because if you're a Knicks fan, you need Towns to be great in this series to win 4, right, against the Celtics. Good to win 1, but can they do this 3 more times is the question. If you're a Knicks fan, if you're a Celtics fan, you're just like, man, Cat had one of his epic meltdowns and we lost the game. Like, how is that even possible that we lost this game? That third quarter, the Celtics just decided to jack threes, and the Knicks decided to shoot threes as well because that was their hope of getting back in the game. And OG Anunoby was money in this game. I mean, I think the 2 best players on the court in this game were Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby. I think OG was probably the most impactful guy on the court. Josh Hart wasn't too far behind him. Bridges, was great in OT. But it's just sad to see out of the Celtics team that seemingly learned their lesson making it through 4 rounds of the playoffs last year, that you can't play with your food. And I don't know if they got overconfident in this one. I don't know what happened, but they decided to shoot 3-pointers for the entire game. And instead of going to the basket where they had a wide open paint, they just chucked threes all night. I don't know how many more times I can say that. All right, I'm going to check the chat here. What do we got? JT in the fourth quarter was 0 for 7, 0 for 5 from 3, 2 points on free throws. Alex says, reminds me of the 2023 Celtics losing to the Hawks and Sixers in similar games. Yeah, absolutely. This was recidivistic behavior. What that means is the Celtics slip back into some really bad habits, and blowing 20-point leads. As a Celtics fan, since I don't know, the last 3 years, anytime the Celtics had a 20-point lead, it felt like that lead was never safe. But I kind of thought we were past it. I just really did. I didn't think this was the game that the Celtics blew a lead. I thought we were handily going to win this game until I don't know. I don't know what happened. Missoula called a few timeouts. We clearly didn't make the necessary adjustments in those timeouts. Maybe this is a game in which if Porzingis is healthy, we're able to get a few buckets inside. I guess that is the one thing about having Porzingis back in that first round versus not having him for more than 12 minutes tonight is we didn't have a post presence. And the one thing I will say about the Knicks is that you can't just bully them. Right. You're not going to be able to play bully ball in the post against Josh Hart. You're not going to be able to do that against OG Anunoby. You're not going to be able to do that against Towns. You're not going to be able to do that against Robinson. Brunson, he can at least fight. You can definitely take advantage of Brunson, which the Celtics, I thought, did a really good job in the first half of doing so. But we just settled in the second half. We let them off the hook. We were hoping for a game in which, the avalanche, the Celtics avalanche hit, and we just made, instead of 15 3-pointers, we made 23 pointers. We make 23 pointers in this game, we win the game. We make 18 3-pointers in this game, we win the game. And they just committed. They doubled down. They tripled down. They went all in on the 3-point shot tonight. And Gary Washburn is, just as angry as I am somewhere. All right. I think that's enough on this game. I do want to talk a little bit about the first game of the Cavs and the Pacers series, because if the Celtics remember how to play basketball the rest of the series, now I'm just questioning everything I thought I knew about basketball. Indiana or Cleveland awaits on the other side. And if you didn't watch Indiana versus Cleveland game 1, make sure you tune into game 2, because everything that we saw out of the Pacers last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, they have, one, got their star back. Halliburton's back, and he looks great. And they've got their kind of key bench guys going, with Mathurin being able to give you some minutes there where he was hurt last year. Obi Toppin has really found himself off the bench there. Nesmith is playing like everything the Celtics hoped Aaron Nesmith would turn into. And, the way that they closed out that game against Cleveland, the whole reason the Celtics swept the Pacers last year is they made mistakes down the stretch. We made defensive plays and closed them out. After tonight, I'm just like, man, like we play the Pacers in the next round, we're going to be forced to execute for 48 minutes in high possession games. And, you can just get pulled into running that track meet with them Darius Garland being out for the Cavs, I think he's expected back in game 2. It sounds like he's got turf toe or something like that. But without Garland being able to kind of match Halliburton's gamesmanship at the point guard, I think the Pacers are going to win that series. I called that before the series. Coming into the season, I said the Pacers were going to finish number 2 in the East. That's a team I've believed in for quite some time. So if you have not tuned in to game 1, make sure you tune into game 2. The up and down nature of that series, I think that's probably going to be the most fun series to watch in this second round. You could probably make an argument for Minnesota Golden State as well. Celtics Knicks, man. I mean, I was feeling so confident coming into this one and a little bit shook. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. All right. I fully expect Celtics to win game 2, but when you lose game 1, anything can happen. Right now, just a quick check in. Looks like OKC is up 7 early on Denver, 35-28. Just going to check in on that real quick. Jamal Murray continuing to play lights out basketball, 5 for 8, 14 points in the first quarter there. SGA hadn't been great in the first round, but he looks like he had a great first quarter. He was 6 for 8, 2 for 2 from the line, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 14 points out of him. That's going to be a fun series to watch. Thinking about how easy round 1 was for OKC and how difficult round 1 was for Denver. I would expect OKC to get this game just because Denver's coming off of a grueling 7-game series, and they just played 2 games ago in a game 7. But Jokic has got to be happy not to see Zubac for another game. Obviously, Hartenstein and Holmgren kind of present their own challenges there, just with their ability to double with high hands, which is what the Celtics used to do to Jokic all the time. It's what the Celtics used to do to Embiid all the time. They're going back to the Al Horford-Rob Williams pairing. Anytime you can send length in the double team, I think that's probably the best strategy that you can do there. But yeah, that's going to be a fun series as well. Definitely going to try and tune into that. Alex, you got anything else for me, man, before I wrap up here? Depression. Yes. Yes, depression. I don't know how to handle this. Like, what do you, yeah, on to game 2. Got to kind of put this one in the past. This Celtics team, they can bounce back, man. We saw this last season, against the Cavs. They blew that game. I can't even remember. Who did we play in the first round last year? Alex would probably know. Heat. Yeah. We blew a game against the Heat as well, right? In the first round. So we blew a game against both the Heat and the Cavs. We swept the Pacers. We won in 5 against the Mavs. So there's a chance this is the first time this iteration of the Celtics team gets pushed back, pushed to beyond 5 games, which maybe is a test that they need to go through. Maybe this is one of those silver linings things where if we make it to the finals this year, I don't think there's anybody we're beating in 5 games out west. So I think that maybe this is a test for the Celtics to regroup and see where their mettle is at after blowing a 20-point lead, and just having to kind of get away from those bad habits, check back in with each other, make sure it doesn't happen again. But you gave the Knicks confidence, to be able to get through a game like that with Karl-Anthony Towns, as I said, taking a big steamy dump on the court. That's you got to feel confident if you're a Knicks fan. And if OG Anunoby can play like this, if he can defend Jason Tatum on one end of the court and then be a knockdown shooter on the other end of the court, OG's a problem. OG's a real problem. I've always been a huge fan of that guy, and he played great tonight. All right. I somehow made it almost 30 minutes on this one. I don't know that we're going to have a pod for you after the next game. There is a chance that could happen. I'm going to try to do a coffee and C's on Friday. Maybe Alex can join me for that. But Knicks fans, congratulations to you. You at least won 1 game in this series. Hopefully, the Celtics can take care of business moving forward. All right, but that's going to do it for me, for Green with Envy. You can always send us questions at Green Envy Pod or Celtics Noise at gmail.com. Alex, thanks for hanging out with me. And everybody, thanks for participating in the chat. Steve on the East Coast, thank you for the tip. And that's going to do it for this one. Greg Manakis signing off. Peace.